Hey everybody. Hey, my name is Rick, and tonight I'm gonna just walk through command line prompts of my life, I suppose, my work history, and use that as a setup for figuring out how to write our own, which will be in episode number 9. So this is episode 8. I'm going to talk about prompts, and I'm going to talk about it in the context of prompts that I've had in the past, and why I had the prompts the way I did, and just ruminate on that, and hopefully pique your interest on why the prompt is an important feature to at least be purposeful about. I do want to talk about this though, notebooks. I've since my second job out of college, which would have been in the 90s, I've kept a electronic notebook, and I talk about this practice here on my blog. I'll put this into the chat here. The electronic notebook was helpful for me to see these prompts. So for example, this picture here shows a directory. It looks like a Sigwin directory with sig drive there, and it shows a bunch of files. But if you notice, there's a prompt here, and I just looked through all my old diaries. I just sampled a few, looking for these various prompts that I had growing up. The notebooks, though, I just mentioned them as a way to have a strong memory of what it is that you've done at the terminal or at the computer. And for example, just so you know, I have here in my here in my little Raspberry Pi running Raspbian, I have a notebook directory, and this notebook contains this directory contains, I don't know how many files are in here. It says 524 files, going from, let's just do this, 1 to 4, spanning, let's see, what looks like 1, 2, 3 since 2012, but probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So like 12 years of fooling around. I clearly had copied stuff from older computers, and my notebooks though from work span earlier than that to the 90s. So using these notebooks, I'm able to look at the past. If I do something like this command line here, just grab this thing here. Let's see, we can do see what I was thinking about in 2017. Yeah, I was mucking around with Vegas, Gitbook, a new wireless modem. Here are some projects I was doing. SQL alchemy, experimentation, or learning, most likely learning Bootstrap. Things like that. And if I go back even further, or 2019, looks like I was doing Advent, little programming, little programming puzzles during December. So hacking around with Xterm, things like that. And when you go into it, like here, I'm going to do this one here, for example. You could see I'm just talking to myself in these notebooks, writing down stuff so that I could remember it. And one of the things that you'll notice is I do copy and paste everything that's on the screen, or the excerpts on the screen that are worth remembering. So here, look at that project. If I remember I have a notebook entry, I can read that and see what's there. It's great practice, and something I recommend, and something that I really like to advocate for. So keep an electronic notebook of some kind. I know that there's a lot of new technologies that take this to the next level, where the entries are somehow taggable. They can connect to each other. They're backed by some kind of persistent storage that provides even more refined searching than grep. But just getting into the practice of a notebook, I felt it's easier to keep it simple, and that's what it always has been for me, a simple practice, but it yields a lot of benefits, because if I can grep for an error message, if I encounter an error message, I can do a grep, a search for that message to see if I've encountered it before. And usually, sometimes it's new, but many times it's something that I've seen in the distant past, and I can jog my memory and come to a resolution for it. Or it's something clever that I figured out, and I'll think, oh, how did I end up doing that? And I'll look through my notebooks. It's a little harder for that kind of search, but I'll look through and see if I have ideas. I am, as I talk about it now, thinking about those newer tools, though, and maybe that'll be a subject of a future productivity exercise that I try. But so far, so good with the electronic notebooks, and they were helpful for me for this topic, which is command line prompts. Right. So just from this alone, you can tell that, I hope it's clear, that I've spent pretty much all my working life in front of Unix systems. And my second job out of college, my prompt was just the host name and the smiley face. So I went through the trouble of making these prompts, recreating them. So this is my prompt from back in the day. It was simply the host name of the machine and this smiley face. And when I think back on this prompt, one of the things that I remember is back in the 90s, servers, when you needed a Unix server to work on, it very rarely was on your desk. It was almost always a shared server that many people found themselves on. And because there were many different servers for the QA team, servers for the engineering team, servers for the production team, you got familiar with their names, and I no longer remember what those host names are, but I remember things like they were themed. So all the engineering servers were named after mountain ranges, if I remember right, or national parks, or moons, things like that. And it was cool. Servers were a big deal, and that's why the prompt was the host name, and there really wasn't anything more that I needed from that. So I tacked on this smiley face, and that was my prompt for probably a long time, 4 or 5 years. I would think though that my third job out of college, I somehow became more purposeful with the prompt. My prompt became this 2-liner, and I actually have a lot of this prompt lying around, so I'll show you that in a second. But first, let me just resurrect this here. I think it's prompt 2-liner. Oh, prompt 2. And right here you could see the prompt is 2 lines. It has my name, my username, the host name, the current directory. So if I go up a directory, there's you could see the directory name is changing into the prompt itself. It's baked into the prompt. In addition, the prompt also has the time, and it also has this number here, which represents the command number. It's the history number of this command that I've typed. So if I were to go to the temp directory, that gets registered in command number 189. And if I were to go to another directory and I say, oh wait, I got to go to the temp directory, I can do bang 11889 and I repeat that command. It's essentially looking at the history and repeating what's in there. You can see that it's tacked on, and I like the history. I was going to talk about FZF, which is this new way to manipulate the history, but I'll save that for another time. This was the way that I used to navigate the systems back then, and in fact my history never looked like this. I discovered that you can tack on the time for each command in Bash. I don't know if that's a new feature, but it certainly wasn't around in my jobs. But that's what this number was, and because of this, if I were to scroll up, I could see these numbers and remember, oh yeah, that's something that I did. Or if I do a grep, I can do grep, and I'll think, oh, I want to repeat this. What's my Python version? I can just do bang 1143. I mean, you could also do Control R to search and do version, and it'll repeat it. But there was a lot of utility. There was a lot of flexibility when you could remember the command line numbers and you associate them. Okay, let's see. But that was my prompt for a long time, the 2-liner prompt. I wish I could remember how I came to the 2-liner prompt, but again, in the next episode, I'll talk about writing these prompts, which does take a little bit of construction. And nowadays, though, there's all sorts of prompts you can just grab from the internet. Second job, third job. So my fourth job, I kept the two-liner, but I added this base here. What this was a way for me to know whether I was in terminal multiplexer. Back then, in the early 2000s, I had discovered Screen, and I was a massive user of Screen. And one of the things that I realized is that I wanted my prompt to reflect what screen number was I on, or whether I was in Screen or not. So to demonstrate that prompt, I have to actually get out of the tmux and fire up Screen. Now I have Screen running, and this is kind of a new configuration. I have here I'm in pcal. Did not expect that to give me that. I thought for sure the calendar was in here. Wasn't it not in the other one? Let me just quickly which cal here? Hang on. That's, I'm blown away here for a second. Cal. Wow, it's totally not there. Okay. All right. So back in Screen, I don't know where my calendar command went. I thought that was a default command. I thought that was one. What you notice though is my prompt stays the same, so I don't know what screen I'm on. Now the screen has a ruler down here, so I can look at the screen information. But I'd like to know it here at the prompt. So I'm in here, and what I can do is change my prompt so that it reflects the screen number that I'm on. So if I do this, Screen, what you see is that there's now a number here. This number represents the screen number. So if I go back to Screen 0, actually let's go to Screen 2. If I go to Screen 2 and I go to the prompts and I do the prompt 3 screen, you can see that this is now 2. And then if I go to projects prompts, and there it is, 0 for Screen 0. That's just the way the screens are numbered. Yeah. Now, again, this was a refinement that I made because I discovered that with Screen there is a variable that it sets in the shell called window, and window reflects the window number that you're in for Screen again. And if you weren't in Screen, this environment was not set. So if I exit Screen and I do this prompt, you'll see that it says base. Base is because you're not in Screen. You don't see the screen down here anymore. So it was just a little change to the two-liner prompt. And I, again, the big change for me in this job was discovering that I had the capability to do two-line prompts, number one, but also actually, I discovered that in my third job, but the big thing in my fourth job was discovering that Screen could communicate to the shell what screen number it was on. Now, in tmux, there isn't such a variable, at least not as elegant as window, because in tmux, the actual object that is being captured is the actual object that you're typing in is called the pane, and tmux has their own thing called pane. So if I were to go back, tmux, I can do projects prompt 03. And this is, even though it says 0, which looks suspiciously like this, if you were to create a new pane, let's do this horizontal split. I think it was V. Yeah. And if I do that same prompt again, projects, prompts, prompt 03, two-liner, tmux, you can see that this now says 1. And tmux, because of its numbering system, because of its windowing system, the numbers don't quite line up to the actual window number. Now, I believe that you could script this because tmux has tmux list windows. Do I not have the command line completion on this thing? This shows that you're in window 0 because of the asterisk. So if you create a new window here, it'll say tmux list windows. It'll show that you're in window 1. So you could do some scripting to get that cool 2-line prompt with the knowledge of which tmux window you're in. But if you were to do the prompt here, it won't say 0 or 1. It'll say something like, I think it might say 2, because you can do list panes, and nope. Yeah. T1, 2. So this should say tmux 2. So let's do that prompt. Projects, prompts, prompt 03, tmux. Yeah, it says 2. Again, the numbering is weird. And if you go back and you exit this one, for example, the prompt remains 1. Like the tmux environment variable is still 1. Okay. So that's the prompt that I went with, largely because by then I had become a big user of screen, and at some point I switched over to tmux. I wish I could. I know if I read through the diaries and the notebooks, I'll find exactly when. But you can see that I've really just kept this prompt definition kicking around since that point of time. In 2010s and 6th job 2000, mid 2010s. I'm just realizing now I'm on my 7th job, but these were the jobs that began to introduce me to AWS. And AWS has a very simple prompt, which is just the username, the @, and the host name. And then you can see there's a little block here for the tilde, which is where the terminal is. This is actually a lot like the default WSL prompt. So that actually takes us to the end of this talk. My current prompt today looks an awful lot like the AWS prompts that you see here. In fact, this one I think was stock. I got it from Debian, it installed it, and normally I copy over the prompt from my other servers. And this time I didn't do that. I just kept this one, largely because with tmux I sort of know with the ruler what window I'm in more. I'm also not, because of the panes, tmux panes, the number isn't as accurate as before. But also I think I've gotten less fussy about prompts. I didn't think I would be, but I have. So when I got this Mac, I'm going to try to bring up my normal window, which is this one. You can see the prompt is just this percent sign. That's like old school. That's, yeah, it's super old school. So I should probably use at least a one-line prompt that looks like this, or because when you're on Unix, you often want to just know what directory are you in, and I do change directories a lot, and I use the directory stack. Maybe I'll talk about that at the next broadcast. I have been busy watching a lot of live sports, but the next time I come on again, I'll talk about how to make these prompts. What are in these little scripts? Very simple scripts. And from there, probably one more episode to talk about what I call modern prompts. I think in episode 9, I'll talk about how to construct prompts, but then I'll talk about how some of what I call prompt decorations can be added by things like Python virtual environment or Git. Yeah, we're just going to talk about command line prompts because it's technical, it's about Unix, and it's about playing on Unix. I thank you, though, for checking this out, as meandering and as personal as this is. I hope my tip on the notebooks is something that people think about, read this blog post, and I hope you take that as an idea to at least make your own. Again, I thank you for checking this out, and I'll catch everybody the next time.